I'm Ashy, and today I'm going to do a sketchbook tour of my watercolor sketchbook. There's some ink and wash and some just sketches also in here, but this is a tour of the sketchbook. And this sketchbook I did from September of 25 through June of 26. So this one did take me a while. I do have another sketchbook going at the same time, so that's part of the reason. Another part is I just was painting more outside of my sketchbook than I guess I typically do. Plus, I binged so many books. I read a lot, so I wasn't sketching as much when I was out and about because I was reading. If you're a book reader, definitely the library, the Libby app, like you can get all sorts of books for free and just read them on your phone or a Kindle or whatever, and it's great. And plug for Dungeon Crawler Carl if you're an adult. It's not a kid's book, but it's hilarious. So I read that whole series plus a bunch of other books. Anyway, so let's actually get into it. Actually, before we go, and if you don't care about the chatty part, just skip to the top-down view and you'll get to the sketchbook tour. But behind me, I've kind of staged this little table, and I had recently put a potted plant there. I'm not really a plant person, and I put a potted begonia and I overwatered it, and it was like so droopy and soggy, and it was kind of hilarious. So I was like, well, it's hot, it's summer in Texas, so I'm gonna take it outside and let it dry out in the heat and see if I can save it. Well, I took it out, and then it pop-up showers the next day. I was like, seriously? I'm like, well, I'll just leave it out. It'll be hot. Rain the next day again. So much rain. So I think that it's going to die, but it's still outside. So that's why there's a big hole there. But I do have that spot, and I'll try again probably. I don't know. I don't have the patience for plants, I guess. But yeah, so that's what's supposed to be there, is a plant, but that's okay. This right here is a vase thing-ish that I kind of failed at, but I saved it anyway. So it's not actually a vase, and it has a hole in the bottom, but I'm keeping it because I liked the colors. And so I also glass blow. And so this was my first try back in like 6 months after not glass blowing for a while, and everything broke, but I saved that one anyway. Thankfully, went again the next night and made successful vases in the shape that I wanted. So I was very happy about that. Okay, so now for real, let's go ahead and dive into the sketchbook tour. So again, this was September of 25 to June of 26. So this did cover a good span of time. And I'm gonna be flipping it around a lot because I think even one of these I did completely upside down in there. So bear with me on that. So when we turn into the inside cover of my sketchbooks, it pretty much is always gonna look chaotic because I let my kids draw or paint on the pages that aren't watercolor paper. So the inside cover in this first page isn't watercolor paper. So I just let them go to town on this. So this was my younger daughter, so she's 5, and she painted this beautiful masterpiece. All right, so then the first painting here we have is imaginary, but based on Ireland. I love Ireland so much. I want to go back. I've visited there once. We went for like 17 days and I loved it, and I took so many photos, but this was an imaginary Irish kind of cliff, castle, fort thing. And I really like how this turned out. I did this while my daughters were at gymnastics practicing, and I really, really like that one. This one was not very successful, but you know, whatever. There's this restaurant, Chicken and Pickle. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of it, but they have like games and stuff. So my daughters were playing this like soccer game where you sit at a table and it's covered, and then they play soccer under the table. And so I was trying to draw it, and it wasn't great, but it was still fun to sit there and watch them while they were playing instead of just like scrolling on my phone or something. I just sat down at a table next to them and sketched them while they were playing. And then this was that same day. They have like across the bridge, it's kind of like a park area with restaurants and walking paths and stuff. anyway, in our area, and they were playing at the playground, so I just sketched this restaurant that was across the sidewalk from us. And I like these yellow umbrellas and the words. I really like how the words came out, or the letters, I mean. And I really like the dark behind the yellow to make it pop. The scene itself was, I just wasn't taking a lot of time to really define that, but I do like kind of the looseness of that, and I like the colors of the tree here. These are some portrait practice, and you know, they're not the best, but they're practice, and that's what matters. So I was trying to draw my daughter, and it doesn't look at all like her, so then I tried to draw her again. It still doesn't look at all like her, but at least it looks a little bit younger. The eyes look really old in this one. I do like the hair, though, in this one. It's pretty good. And then I tried to draw my younger daughter, and I gave her way too much hair. She don't have that much head, but I do kind of like the hair in this one also, because we have the really like dark purple side here for the shadows, and then the light yellow, and I like that contrast, so I think that's kind of fun. And her face is actually halfway decent. It doesn't look like her, but at least it's like proportionally a person, so that's nice. I just wish that I would have cut off this part of the hair, and I think it would have been a lot better. And then this was trying to paint my daughter with her missing tooth, and again, she just looks very old. It's kind of a hard balance for me to paint with like lines and texture and not make them look super old, but it's something that I'm still practicing on. And then we were getting into fall. This, I think I was just like, honestly, maybe cleaning my palette. And so I was just using the colors to paint leaf shapes. I kind of like these like blue leaves. I don't know what they're supposed to be, but I kind of like them. And I like the shape of this too. So that was just like a fun little watery play. And then I did, I was at my friend's house, and our other friend was there too, who is actually a professional artist. She's an animator. But she had brought her watercolor, or her gouache pans, and I had my watercolor pans. So we each did a watercolor and then a gouache of the same kind of items that were on our friend's table. I love this painting a lot. So this is the watercolor version, and I really like pretty much all of it. I love the twisty dark stem here. And then the squirrel is just adorable. And I didn't sketch anything first. This is all just straight in with watercolor. And I really like that one. And then so the next page is the gouache version. So I painted this pumpkin. And I've never really used gouache before, but you can do the opposite. You can start light and then add start dark and add light. So I still didn't do that. I started light and then added darks, but then I added some highlights like to the stem and to the pumpkin itself in the yellows. And so this was really fun, and I really do enjoy this pumpkin. Again, I love the stem. I love the stem so much. And I really love these flowers also, and the leaves. Gouache is really fun. I have not played with it much. I do have a set of gouache that my husband bought for me that I haven't even opened because I've just been watercoloring, and I don't know why. I hesitate to open it, but I do need to get into it because it is a very fun medium. All right, and then this was just based on a photo I found on Pinterest. It's okay. There are parts of it that I like. I think I'm getting a lot better at hair more consistently. So I do like the hair. I like the boots quite a bit. Parts of the leaf, parts of the shirt. Her face is a little bit funky, but overall, it was a very fun painting to do. I think I did this mostly at church, actually. This was a page. We went to a place in Waco, Texas called Camp Fimfo, and it's just like camping. You can do tent camping, RVs, cabins. but they have like activities and sports stuff and a playground, and it's very kid oriented. And my kids loved it. And we just went there to take the kids camping and kind of introduce tent camping because we've never been tent camping with them. And this was kind of a easy way because there are full restrooms there. There's still restaurants, there's stuff, right? So it's not like you're out in the middle of nowhere tent camping. So they really enjoyed it also. So we will be tent camping. But yeah, so they had this like little water run thingy because you could buy rocks in the store and then like, what is it? Like use a sieve and find the gems in that pile of like sand and rocks. Anyway, I can't remember what it's called, but like gem mining. And then so this was that where the water comes out and runs down. And so I just sat there and painted it while they were playing on the playground. They have like, it's very tree covered. And so it's very shady, very nice. And they have picnic tables. This was, we went to Chick-fil-A and I painted the light fixture. I was gonna do more. And then the food came and I just never went back to it. So that's a Chick-fil-A light fixture in Waco. And then here's another one that I just never went back to. So this was just like a cottage. Again, I just found a picture on Pinterest, I think. And I liked this cottage, so I started drawing it. And then I just never went back and finished it. And honestly, I probably won't. Because now I don't know. I don't care. I don't even know. I'd have to go back and find the picture. And so, you know, that's kind of an important thing. Like, your sketchbook doesn't all have to be finished. If you just kind of get over something, move on. It's not that big of a deal, right? So that page, I have a pencil sketch of a little cottage. These were fun. These are obviously fruit, but they are like water soluble gel crayons, basically. I don't know. I got them at Jerry's Artarama. They were on sale. They were very bright, very colorful. They twist up. Let me actually go find them because they're really fun. Let me grab them and show you what I made this with. Okay, so these are what I used. So they're Creative Inspirations Silky Water Soluble Gel Crayons. And they are very cool. So like I said, they twist up and they're like a crayon, but then you can activate it with water. So it's a little bit like the Caran d'Ache Neo Color 2s, but it's a lot like silkier. So it still has some texture when it goes on, but it feels a little bit different than those. And they're really, really fun for bright like illustrations. So yeah, would I recommend them? Absolutely. They're really fun to play with. I took them on a trip in the airport also, and they were nice to just sketch, and then you can go add water later, so that's kind of cool. And the case is nice. It holds them all really securely. So anyway, strawberries, blueberries, banana. I really like the strawberries. I like the blueberries too, but I really like the strawberries. Banana's okay. It's kind of a weird shape. This was just a ink sketch with my brown Pigma Micron fine liner. And we had gone down to Austin for a friend's birthday, just spent the day down there. And we were sitting outside in this like courtyard area where they had a bunch of tables. It was like outside this, I don't know what to call it, it was a place that had a bunch of different like quick serve restaurants, and then you could sit outside or inside and eat. And so everybody could get what they wanted. Different types of food. And so this was like a hotel behind, and it was sunken. So this is like a wall that walled off the street, and like cement place to sit. Anyway, so I just sketched while we were waiting for our other friend to get there, and the kids were running around and we were just kind of chatting. This is another line drawing, obviously, of my daughter. So this is my younger daughter at the Grand Canyon. And so this is just, I had photos of them, so I decided to try to sketch them. And I really like this one. I think it captures her kind of playfulness. Now, some of it's wonky, like her hand, which is funny because I usually draw hands pretty well, but her hand turned out super wonky, but that's okay. I was thinking about going back and painting this, but I chose not to, just because the Grand Canyon, it's beautiful, it's awe-inspiring, but it's kind of all that reddish brown color. And so all of these layers would kind of just be different reddish browns. And I think that it's captured well enough in this brown liner that I didn't need to do that. So I chose not to paint it. And then, oh, I don't have to turn. This is my older daughter at the Grand Canyon also. And so she was sitting up, she had climbed up on these rocks. And I really like the tree in the background with all of the hatching for shading. And I was really happy with the hatching on the rock and everything too. She turned out, again, I'm pretty happy with her. I really like this one. And same thing, I just decided not to paint it. I think it would be cool to go in and just paint like some sky and maybe the greens, but I probably won't go back to it. But that would be kind of cool. And then this was our same road trip. So we went to the Grand Canyon and then we went to New Mexico, and this is Bandelier National Monument. And so Bandelier's kind of northern New Mexico, I guess. Anyway, I don't know. And it's like these cliff dwellings. So you climb up these ladders. The tallest one's like 140 or 170 feet up the cliff walls. I don't remember exactly. And that was this one. And so you're climbing up these ladders and these like stairs that were built into the walls of the cliff. And then you get up into these caves that they used back in the day for housing and protection. And so this was like they said that this was like a ceremonial one, and where they would have like village meetings, that's not the right term, but basically where they would like conduct government and rituals and things. And so it was really large and a really cool view. And so same thing, I just decided to do the sketching and not go back and paint it. But I was really happy with that one too. And I was really practicing like hatching on these with ink. And I was happy with how they turned out. Now, this page is just, we had gone to the zoo, and then I came home and I was like, I feel like painting. What should I paint? I'll just paint some zoo animals. And some of them look really funky, and others look pretty decent. So, I mean, obviously, you can make your own determination of which ones you like and which you don't. This is a harpy eagle, though, and I will say, when we went to the zoo, the harpy eagle, they had a, like, keeper chat. And the person who was telling us about the harpy eagle was actually the head zookeeper for the birds. And so she was super knowledgeable and super like engaging, and she was so good with the kids. She encouraged them to ask tons of questions, and they actually did because she was so engaging. And so the kids asked tons of questions. It was a really actually kind of long keeper chat that we stayed and listened to the whole thing, and my kids asked questions. And anyway, so that's a harpy eagle, and their talons are terrifying, and they have these little like feathery heads. I didn't do actually the full feathery crown because they actually have like a full crown. I just did too. I don't know why, but it's a very cool animal, but also huge and kind of terrifying. But one thing I learned about them that I didn't know is that their wingspan is pretty small compared to normal eagles compared to their body size, and that's because they live in like more jungly situations where the canopies are so thick that if they had bigger wingspans, they wouldn't be able to fly around and hunt and do things. So that was kind of interesting. Anyway, so that was just a fun little page of very, very loose watercolor animals, and I didn't sketch or anything first. I just went straight in with watercolor. And I don't know what this is. I don't remember. I think I was just like, I don't have any idea, testing some bleeding or something, but yeah, it's splashed on there. And then I get into these water lilies, and so I really liked this like composition, and it was kind of a mix of like quite a few different pictures that I saw online and just some kind of imagination. And then I decided that I wanted to do a full like 8x10 watercolor painting of water lilies, which is on my channel. So that is a real-time full-length tutorial, so you can check that out. But these were kind of practice for that / inspiration for that. And so I just tried a bunch of different kind of ideas. I have 4 different ones. So the next page is also water lilies. Okay. And so there's light coming through right here, through the holes in the blinds. Anyway, sorry about that. But I kind of used a compilation of this stuff as the practice, and then pulled pieces of it for that final painting. And water lilies are really fun to paint. If you've never painted water lilies, you should, because you can add really dark shadows, which is fun. You can get pops of color, you can get reflection in the water and do tons of dry brushing, which I love. And so highly recommend. And so those are my water lilies. And then we went to the zoo again. And this time I decided to paint while I was there. So at the Dallas Zoo, they have these like sculptures. I think a lot of zoos have this, but they have sculptures in different areas. And the one section, there's 3 elephant sculptures, and all the kids in general, and mine included, love to like climb on the elephant sculptures and sit on them like they're riding them and all of that. And so we usually let them do that for a little while, and I just sat down next to them and started drawing it. But I started at the foot and then worked my way up and realized, well, I'm out of room, so I just finished what I had space for. And I actually kind of like how it turned out. Like, even though it doesn't have its head, you see its tusk here, you see its ears, like you can clearly tell this is a giant elephant. And I think that the fact that it goes off the page just kind of forces that scale, that perspective of the scale, and I really like that. And I really like some of the colors and blending that I got on this one. So this one was actually really fun, even though it didn't go to plan. This was based on these like luminaries that they have right now. So they do, I don't even know what it's called, but basically they have giant luminaries of tons of different animals, seaweed, whatever, all sorts of things. And then they have special events at night where they light them up. And there was 2 specifically. There was an octopus and this like sea slug thingy that were turned into like benches or seats. And so the kids took pictures sitting on the seats. And I just used those pictures as inspiration. And so I just started drawing the octopus. And then it looked like the octopus was reaching out to touch something. So I decided that it would be petting the sea slug. And so I drew the sea slug. And then from there, I just basically added a background and kind of made it up just from imagination. And I really like how this turned out. I think it's so much fun. And I did this all while we were there. So they have a carousel, and while the kids were riding the carousel and in line for this carousel, I just sat there and worked on this. And so just taking those little moments where I'm not doing anything to do this instead of, again, like scrolling on my phone. So that is, a great reason for the sketchbook and a great way to stay present while not just being bored, sitting there watching your kids waiting in line for something. So here's another sketch, and I think this one is on my channel too, just in sketchbook practice. And so this is from Bandelier National Monument as well. And so I just wanted to sketch this because I thought it was funny, the contrast between my 2 kids in this photo. My older one is very serious and attentive and focused, and my younger one is just wild and bouncy all the time. And I thought that the poses that they had kind of captured that. And then I liked the cliff walls behind them and this little bit of a ruin of something. I don't know what it was, but stone structure of some sort. So I just sketched that quickly, and I do like how it captures the memory. And then here I'm just working on figures. I have kind of plans going forward of working on kind of anatomy and art, but in a simplified way and in a way that makes it easy to capture. And these were just some practice for that. So I didn't sketch or anything first. I went straight in with watercolor with these. And I was really focused on trying to capture the kind of muscle structure of these figures. And I do like how they turned out. I think they're really loose, but loose realistic, if that makes sense. So I do really like these. And I really like how this ring turned out. Just, you know, choose very specific parts and compliment yourself when you're looking back at your art. All right. This one was based on a background on my computer, one of those, you know, random Microsoft backgrounds that pops up. And it was actually a full, like, building. And I think it may be Greek or something. I don't know. Anyway, but I really liked this little column. And so I was like, well, I'm just going to draw that part. And I'm going to ignore all the rest because I don't want to draw the whole building. But I do want to draw this part, and I want to get the sky because I liked the like orange, pink, and blue that was going on. So that's what I did. And I do like it. I think it looks a little like a chess piece maybe, but I think it's really cool. And again, I like the shading with the ink just to build up that depth. So kind of playing with that quite a bit. This one was a photo from, so Sketches and Scrubs is a artist that does YouTube, that has a YouTube channel. She has so much stuff going on, but I really love watching her YouTube videos. And she did like a urban sketching marathon on her channel, a video recently, and she popped up all these photos from one of her recent trips, and then she was sketching them really quickly. I don't remember what her timer was, but she set a timer and she was sketching them really quickly. And I really, really liked this photo. And so when I got home I watched it, I think I watched it while I was at work. But when I got home, I pulled it back up and paused it and then used her photo as inspiration for this sketch. And I do love this sketch. So if you don't watch Sketches and Scrubs, do it because she's awesome and she's very entertaining and engaging and pleasant, and she just is a great artist on top of all those things. So great person, great artist. So definitely watch her. But this was based on that, and I do like how this sketch came out. This was just playing with perspective and looking at that like forced perspective to get the sense of height, and then negative space for the clouds in the background. Also texture for the foliage and how to get kind of layers of foliage. So I did, if the video hasn't come out for this yet, I did this as a tutorial also, separate from this one, so it's a square format, but I really liked this, so I turned it into a tutorial. This was for a Paul Clark challenge. I don't do his Facebook group painting challenges, and it's Paul Clark and Margot. They have a Facebook group. Paul Clark is a watercolor artist that does amazing tutorials on YouTube, so also check him out. But they do weekly, I think it's weekly, like challenges. And this was seagulls, and I just wanted something to paint, and I had seen that, and I was like, well, I'll just do that because I don't know what else to paint. And so I just painted a seagull, and I think he's kind of cute. And again, I didn't sketch first with this one. And the funny thing is, like, when I'm in my sketchbook, I feel free to do that, to just go straight in with paint and start painting. But sometimes when I'm on an actual piece of paper, I don't feel that way. But I actually like how they come out better when I don't sketch first. So that's something that I need to remember, that just be confident and just go in with paint, and it's not that big of a deal if it doesn't quite go to plan. But yeah, so I like my little seagull, and I like the orange in the bird, and then these like orange flowers here. So that one was fun to do. This I did while my daughter was at gymnastics. This is just based on a photo that I saw on Pinterest, and I liked the shadows on the wall with this kind of flower bush thing coming over it. I don't know what kind of flower these are. And I really like this one. I like the softness of it, the soft sky, the soft background of these flowers, even the soft yellow. Even the darkest flowers are still like that soft yellow, and the pale wall. But then these like pops of super dark green, and then the dark shadows. I think this was really effective, and I really like this one. This was the one that I accidentally drew upside down. So I started with the balance beam and these two figures in the middle. Again, I was at gymnastics, so this was the same day that I painted this one. And I really like this girl doing a front or back walkover or something on the beam. I think that was really successful. This one was not as successful. I do like her arms and legs, but her back's a little bit funky and her face is really funky. And then I was just, I don't know why, but I sketched this random person, and I was combining, I had gotten this like dark blue Pigma Micron pen, so I was kind of combining the dark and then the brown and seeing what happened, and I don't like it. Not a fan. But yeah, so that's what I did there. And then maybe the next day or a few days later, I was at the park with my kids, and I decided that I didn't like the page, so I would just sketch over it and do more stuff on it. And so I was trying to capture my kids going through this like ring thing, I don't know, ring ladder, I don't know what to call it, but they were, you know, crawling through that, walking through that, and balancing. It was super fast. I didn't try very hard, but it was fun to just sketch. And then there was a pregnant woman that was sitting on the ground, and so I tried to sketch her. Also, fairly terrible. These are not good drawings. None of these are good. I don't know what these are supposed to be, but they're really bad. So yeah, sometimes we do not do so well. And I definitely realized I do not like drawing with dark ink as much as I do with lighter ink. The brown is just the perfect color for me to sketch with because it doesn't feel so heavy and permanent, even though it's ink. It's heavy, it's permanent, I don't know. But the dark, it just feels different. So I learned that. Okay, I'm gonna flip it back over. And this one was, I decided to try a kind of combination of techniques to get a random picture. So I went online and did a random word generator, which is like you use it for charades or Pictionary, right? And so I got a random word, which the first one was stream. So I then took the word stream and went to a stock photo website. I don't remember which one, Unsplash or Pixel or something, I don't know. But I went to a stock photo website, typed in that word, and then loaded, I was on my phone, so I went down, I loaded more, like 5 or 6 times. That way I had quite a few photos to choose from, or images to choose from. And then I closed my eyes and scrolled, just randomly, up, scroll, down, up, blah, blah, blah. Scrolled for a while, and then just clicked with my eyes closed, and then I painted that. And so for stream, I got this really cool, stream, I guess, but it's tons of rocks and a lot of white in the water. And so I decided, well, that's what I got, so I'm going to paint it. And this is not a photo that I would normally have chosen to paint because it's kind of hard. There were a ton of rocks. The water was kind of finicky to paint, and it was just the stream. It didn't have any sky or anything, like it was just the stream. And so I wouldn't have chosen this to paint, but I really like how this turned out. I think it was a very fun challenge, and I'm happy with it. And so I definitely recommend trying that technique. And I think we'll try that on this channel. I'll do it, the whole process with you, go to the random word generator, select it, show you selecting the photo so that you know that I'm not messing with it and I'm really just selecting at random, and then we'll paint that together. So I'm gonna definitely do that at some point on this channel. I just haven't yet, but I will. This, I don't remember what I did, but it wasn't a random word generator one on this, but I just picked kind of a random image that caught my eye, or did a random, I can't remember. But I painted this, and I added, there was some stuff on the sides, but I added more on the sides because it felt too empty. I really like some of the fruits. This is, I think, supposed to be an orange, and my daughter said it best. I like all of the fruits except for the tomato because it definitely doesn't look like an orange. So, but I think this was fun, and it was actually really quick to do and just kind of a simple little sketch. So Again, just kind of a random thing. And here were 2 more of the random word generators. So on the ones that I did the actual random word generator, I put the word above them and then put the date. So this was impact. So I got this random photo and I was like, okay, let's do it. And so this is a hand holding a phone, which I think looks like a hand in a sweater holding a phone. My daughter said it looks like a cupcake. And now I can't unsee a cupcake. So there's that. But I do like this one, and I like kind of the random bleeds on the red that I got on that. And the phone's cool, and the reflection on the screen of the phone. So I am happy with this one. But you should let me know in the comments. Do you see, when you first saw this, did you see a hand holding a phone, or did you see a phone in a cupcake? And now that I mentioned cupcake, can you see that also and not unsee it? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your perspective. This was flexible, and so it's a very flexible woman. And, you know, both of these, same thing. Didn't sketch first, just went straight in with watercolor. And I really like both of them. I think I did really well on her foot and kind of getting some shading to distinguish the different parts of her body. So I do really enjoy that one. And then I read a book from the library on watercolor journaling, or sketch journaling, or something like that. I can't remember what the book was. If I find it, I will put a picture of it up in the corner. I will find a picture and put it up in the corner so that you know what the book was. I did really enjoy the book. And so I was inspired to sketch my day. And so on May 30th, I sketched my day. We had cinnamon roll pancakes in the morning. And so I sketched that. It was sunny, mostly sunny, some kind of puffy white clouds. So I sketched that, or I painted that. We went to Sam's Club and got pizza, and they had samples. Sam's Clubs often have samples on the weekends, but one of the samples was Mamba candies. And so I sketched those because the kids were very excited about the Mamba candies. And we had a library day. So I painted these chairs and my daughter sitting and reading a library book in the chairs at the library. I do kind of like the shape of the chairs. The rest of it, not the most happy with, but that's okay. This is just a fun memory of that day. And then the next day I did the same thing. So we went to Chuck E. Cheese with my husband's parents, so grandma and grandpa, and we just spent, I don't know how long we spent there, maybe an hour and a half, I don't know. So I started here and sketched my daughter and grandma playing this chicken game. I don't know. Anyway, it's a game where you shoot the zombie chickens and the robot chickens. And anyway, my daughter loves it. And so they played that for a while, which was good because I had the opportunity to really do a nice developed sketch here. And I really like how that turned out. So that was fun. And then I was like, okay, well, I drew my younger daughter. I need to draw my older daughter now, who at Chuck E. Cheese doesn't stay on one thing as long as my younger daughter. My younger daughter loves this game, so she spends most of her time on that game. But, so my older daughter went and played this whack, I can't even read it. I think it says whack and win. Anyway, whack and win game. So it's, you hit the thing with the mallet and try to get to a certain spot. And so she stood in front of it. I started sketching it. So I think I got like the top in and one side. Well, she played it once and she got the jackpot. She won the jackpot the first time and then she walked away. So I didn't have time to continue sketching it all for her, like to sketch her doing it. So I was like, well, I'm not going to leave just like a quarter of this thing undone. And I don't really feel like trying to sketch her playing it from memory. So I'll just sketch it. So I finished that sketch and then I went over and she did stay on this game for a little while. So that was helpful. So I started with her first on this one because I learned my lesson from this one. So I sketched her and then I sketched the game behind her. And I really love how this turned out. And then I think I painted maybe some of it there, but maybe not. No, maybe I didn't. I think I painted it all when I got home. I think I just sketched it there. And then when I got home, I painted it all. And so the painting part really brought it together. I tried to repeat some of the colors, even if it wasn't true to life. So, you know, like the reds in the chicken game, I added into the whack and win game and the ball drop game. And then I used similar blues across it. Anyway, so just trying to kind of pull it together and make it cohesive. And then really, when I painted her clothes, it just made it pop that it's her. Like, she loves this. It's a romper based on Encanto, so Maribel. And she loves that romper. And I love how it came out in the painting. But anyway, so this was a very fun thing to do. And I definitely recommend that you try it. It's very, very fun. So then this was at a baseball game. I don't care for baseball that much, but these are fun. This was just a, what is it, like AAA ball? It's not, anyway, I don't know. It's up in Frisco. And so we were sitting there and I just decided to paint what I saw all the way across the stadium from us. And so there's actually like, this is the Rough Riders Stadium, they have like a whole lazy river place where you can like watch the game from a lazy river, which is kind of cool. I've never done that, but it's kind of cool. And then anyway, there's tons of things going on, but I just painted these bright tents and canopies and then the white buildings behind, and you know, it's coming up to the 4th of July and it's all decorated for kind of summer and celebrating America right now. And it was Veterans Appreciation Night too, so I think that's part of the reason that it was decorated America. So I painted these like banners or bunting or whatever they're called. Don't know what they're called, but I painted those. And you know, it's very, very loose, and I did enjoy doing it. It did rain a little bit while we were there, so that did make it a little bit challenging, but it was nice anyway. And this was my first time trying to paint water droplets. I just saw this photo and was like, well, I'm gonna try it. And I think it turned out pretty decent. I'm not too upset about it. I really like the soft flowers in the background, especially this one. I really like that. This one too, but this one I really like. But yeah, this was just a fun kind of loose painting that I did. And I did this at church too. I like to paint at church when I have something that I'm attending to that's not just the sermon. I actually focus better on the sermon. So I do paint at church instead of, again, no phone scrolling at church. This is a much better option. These were two practices for, again, I talked about, you know, that I was doing the anatomy and art simplified and muscles and how to define that in watercolor. And so I was just playing with this image, which is kind of a combination of imagination, photos that I've seen, and just different things. But I was just kind of playing with the different techniques. And I do like both of these for different reasons. But yeah, so those were kind of fun to do. This was practice. This is kind of funny. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I did practice my flip-flops that are for a sketchbook fill-a page coming up. So this was like me painting flip-flops to practice that, which, don't judge me. Sometimes we have to practice. I never painted a flip-flop before. And I wanted to see if I could paint like really foreshortened to get weird perspectives. And I could not draw them well. I mean, this sort of looks right, but not really. Anyway, so I need to practice foreshortening more. And a flip-flop is such like a known, simple shape that it was kind of fun to practice with it. But I definitely need more practice drawing that. But yeah, so that was just kind of fun playing with the flip-flops. And then this was, I think I saw a photo somewhere with this. I don't know. Anyway, I like the bright colors. I like the contrast of like the smooth water to the kind of crazy sky. I think that's kind of cool. The water balloon, the hot air balloon, I wish I would have painted this first, because since I painted it over the background, it worked, but it's just not as light looking as I wanted it to be. It looks heavy. I wouldn't necessarily say overworked, but it doesn't have that like translucent lightness that I would have liked. So definitely would have painted that first, but other than that, I really like it. When my daughter saw this painting, she's like, oh, I see like a boathouse back here. So that was kind of cool. I didn't do that on purpose, but I can sort of see it, like a little structure there. So that one was fun to do. And it's super bright, super, super bright colors. So that was fun. This was actually cleaning my palette. My travel palette just has the Daniel Smith, well, let me rephrase. One of my travel palettes just has the Daniel Smith split primary set, and I needed to refill some of the colors, but the wells were really dirty. So I was cleaning them out, so I decided that since I was getting paint on my brush, I would go ahead and throw it on a piece of paper. And so I just painted this little boat scene, and yeah, that's it. It's bright, it's kind of fun. This one is, so for my birthday, my husband got me a burnt umber liquid watercolor, watercolor ink, I think. Anyway, I planned to do a video actually on some stuff that I recently got, and that's going to be in there. But I had asked for Daniel Smith burnt umber because I don't love my Winsor & Newton burnt umber because it cracks in the well after you squeeze it from the tube and then let it dry. It cracks really bad. So I wanted a different burnt umber, and I did some research and decided the Daniel Smith one was the one that I wanted. Well, when he went to the art store to get my birthday presents, they were sold out of burnt umber in Daniel Smith. So he was like, oh, well, I just bought you other burnt umber stuff because they didn't have that one, but we'll go back and get that. But so he's like, I don't know how you use that. So I was like, well, there's different ways, but you can just kind of put water down and drop it in and watch it explode. You can paint a specific shape in and drop it in, or you can put it in a palette, use it like watercolor. I was kind of showing him how to use it. And so I put some water down and dropped some, and I was like, hey, that kind of looks like the center of a sunflower. So then I painted a sunflower around it. And then I did this where I painted the shape with clean water and then dropped the watercolor along the back and let it bleed out. And so that's just a little cat under a giant sunflower. And that was that burnt umber watercolor ink, liquid watercolor. I can't remember. But yeah, so that was fun to do. I'd actually never done that before. And so that was kind of fun. And then this page, I mentioned that I do glass blowing also. And so right now I'm in kind of a run of the girl that I go with and we are renting quite a bit over last week and this week. And I am trying to think through what I'm going to make and how I'm going to make it. So with glass blowing, you kind of have to reverse engineer the shape and think about what it's going to look like each step of the way so that it actually gets to the final shape, because you have very little time while you're actually working with the material to think about it, because it's molten hot, but it cools really quickly. And you can only work with it when it's actually hot and shape it when it's actually hot. Once it starts to cool, you're not able to shape it anymore. You have to reheat it. And anyway, so I want to do an octopus like paperweight. And so I drew the final shape that I wanted. And then this little above it is how it's connected to what's called a punty. Anyway, so I drew that and I'm like, okay, this is going to be what it looks like at the end right before I knock it off the punty. If you've never seen glass blowing, definitely look up some glass blowing videos. You can even do shorts. It's just amazing though. Blown Away is a glass blowing show that's on Netflix that's really cool. There's a glass blowing artist on YouTube that I just found. It's Glass Goof. and he does really cool demos that are longer format, and so you can actually see the process a lot more. Now, it's not the entire process, but you can see it a lot more than just looking at a short. So definitely check out his videos. They're really cool. Anyway, so I drew that, and then I went the step back. Okay, so the last step is going to be to get all these tentacles shaped. So the shape that I need before that is going to be the head and where the tentacles are going to be stretched out from. So there needs to be a lot of glass here so that I can stretch it out and turn it into the tentacles. So I drew that. Before this, it's actually on a blowpipe. So this is the punty, this is a blowpipe. This is not a glass blowing lesson. I don't know why I'm going into this, but you can skip through it if you don't care. But this is when it's on the pipe. And so this is the step right before this, where I have this line here that I'm going to break it off there when we connect it to the other punty. So it's a solid piece of metal, not a hole, not a pipe that you can blow through. And this is the step right before that. And this is the initial shape that I need to make sure that I get my glass into, to then blow it into this shape to puff out the head, and then knock it off and be able to pull out the tentacles. So that's the octopus one. And I also want to make this picture. So I drew this out. Again, that's the end. That's the final step. So the steps before that, I labeled it 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know why these are out of like jumping around like that, but it's just where I had space. So I know that I need to make sure that when I'm doing this, I have a lot of glass on the bottom so it doesn't get thin and break. And so I drew in that shape where I'm going to put lines to create the top of the piece and this like neck part. And then it goes and gets blown out and stretched, and then we transfer it to the punty, and then I put right here, make the spout and make the handle. So that is going to be the final piece, hopefully, if I'm successful. Anyway, so that was the last one of my drawings in the sketchbook, and then again, we have the page that is not watercolor paper. So my daughter drew, this is supposed to be a dragon in rain. So these are all raindrops, and this is a dragon with hair. And then this one is my older daughter. She drew, this is Brooke, my younger daughter. So she drew my younger daughter running around playing. I really think this was actually while we were at that place in Austin where I drew this. I think this is the same place as this. And so my daughter sketched that while we were there also. And that is the sketchbook tour for my sketchbook from September of 25 through June of 26. So thank you so much for watching, and if you did watch the whole video, thanks for listening to my rambling. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope that you learned something about painting and art and sketchbook practice and being kind to yourself, but also noting areas that you want to improve or that you want to further develop. And I hope that you enjoyed my rambling about glass blowing, because I do love glass blowing as well, and I'll probably never make a video on that or anything because it's too much. It's too busy, it's too fast, and I just can't do that. But it's a very fun thing, and you should definitely watch other people's videos on it because it's really cool and very dynamic and engaging to watch and to see it demonstrated and also to do. So again, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, keep those paints flowing.